episode of Inspired By. My name's Will. Today we're studying Blue Wednesday beats. Let's jump straight into it. So Blue Wednesday is a lo-fi artist with phenomenal talent. With over 1.5 million monthly listeners, we have a lot to learn. So I've got this project here for you that you got a little preview of in the intro to the video. Why don't we start with the chords themselves? Now, designing these chords, I actually used Captain chords, which featured in a video earlier this week. So if you haven't checked it out already and you're slightly curious, make sure you head on over to Tuesday's video. So we're in the key of D flat major today, and the chords are fairly unquantized. You can see that they're kind of rolled in, so they're quite humanistic, but they're pretty much all of the same velocity. The cool thing about Blue Wednesday's chord choices, or at least chord placement, is that they don't always fall on the bar line, on the downbeat with the kick drum. Let's play this with the click, and you'll get an idea of where these chords are sitting. So that second chord slightly pushed, as is the third. And then a different kind of push there, back on the beat with the fifth chord. And then a really long chord at the end. We don't have a fourth chord. Creating push chords like this energizes the track and makes it a little less monotonous. Mix that with the slow tempo and the chords being quite elongated, there's plenty of space in this track for melodies and percussion. So once I had that in place, I wanted to come up with a top line melody. And the first thing I gravitated to was this. So there's two pianos playing here. Firstly, just this decent sampler piano, and then underneath Ableton's upright piano. The upright piano is pitched 1 octave higher, and you can see here that I've panned it to the left a little bit, and I've also added 11 milliseconds of delay. It just helps pull it out of the mix a little bit more, and it does sound a little bit more in keeping with Blue Wednesday's beat. I was checking out the song The Descent, so you can kind of compare those after this video and see how close I got. Let me know in the comments. I put those two melodies in a group just so I could EQ those pianos together and add a little bit of fresh air to bring out some of that kind of string noise. I did the same to the chord group above that we just checked out. Following that, we've got some guitar chords. I'm just using my old friend's Ample Sounds, the semi-hollow body guitar. It's absolutely gorgeous. And a little bit of EQ here as well. Panned to the left. We want to make sure that all of these melodies, all of these different sounds are evenly spread throughout the mix. So these are just playing some kind of arpeggiated chords as well. Very quiet in the mix. I played that in by hand and kept it completely unquantized. I wanted it to sound like a real guitarist. So hopefully we've achieved that. Moving on, we've got our kind of strumming groups, and I've got two guitars in here. First, that semi-hollow body again, but in this particular preset, I've clicked this button here, which makes sure that all of the notes are palm muted. Underneath and an octave up, I just have the Fink signature guitar on Brady muted notes, and I've added a little bit of a line delay so the guitar's sitting slightly wider. You can see that on some notes, the guitars play something slightly different. I wanted it to have that realistic sound of, you know, the guitarist not always being completely perfect, and sometimes on the strum down, perhaps hitting another note there. You can see here that they've got two different velocities. That means that that downward strum is a little bit heavier or a little bit louder. Not a lot of processing there, just EQ8 and taking out some muddy notes that I didn't like here. And the Valhalla Vintage Verb with 17% mixed there. Just washing out some of those frequencies and making it sound like it's in a bigger space. I've now got my drum group. You'll notice that on some of the groups like the hats and the snare group, I'm just delaying the drums a little bit. Delaying your drums in milliseconds can give that kind of slightly lazy feel and make your drums sound a little bit more human. With the drums alone, they sound like this. The most important thing was the kick. I wanted to make sure that the kick was going to play on the same downbeats as the chords because everything is pushed. So there was no use in having my kicks land on the bar margin. I wanted them to land on that same pushed chord. Let's play those two together. Pretty much all of the kicks and snares are coming from this Comma Rebby sample pack that my friend Docado Sounds has made on Splice. We've then got two snare sounds, the first one sitting completely central, and the second one sitting a little bit wider, just a click. A little bit of EQ8 on that second snare because we want to make sure that we're not overlapping on all of that lower kind of muddy energy. The hats I'm really happy with. They're not really hi-hats. I actually wanted to go with like brushes on a snare, that kind of pitter-patter sound. But the one-shots and samples that I found weren't really cutting it. So I thought, well, what else can I use? And I found these Matchbox samples. They were much longer. And all I did was double-click on it. And then you've seen me do this before, warp beats, preserve the transients and choose the forward mode, and then bring that envelope all the way back to 0. I just chose some patterns I liked. So we've got this kind of like ticking clock pattern. This is our second. And then our third just plays every now and then as a little accent. And you can tell that's pitched up and then pitched down. I just want to interrupt this episode real quick to tell you about DistroKid. DistroKid is my top choice for music distribution because they make it so easy to get your music on all of the streaming platforms. They also have a few ways to boost engagement for your music, with links to slaps.com, which is a music social media which boosts engagement, to the Wheel of Playlists, which is like a randomizer that you assign to your song, getting your track in the top spots of DistroKid's playlist. It's a really fun way to get some extra plays for your track and to have it thrust in front of an audience that may have not found you before. If you want to join me on DistroKid, then make sure you use the affiliate link in the description below. You'll get 7% off your first year. Let's dive back into the video. Let's just have a recap of those drums all together. I think from here we can add our other instruments that we've heard as well. Lovely stuff. All that was to come next was the bass. And as you can tell by the title of the clip, the only thing that I did was drag that Captain Chords group down to my bass and then delete everything but the bottom notes. Here are some of the notes hidden so you could see what it looked like before. And I'm just leaving those bottom notes of the chords. That's my bass line sorted. I don't have to worry about it. The preset is the sub-sine from Operator. I'm just increasing that attack and then I'm adding Waves R bass. Absolutely love this plugin. Always pulls out the bass through like laptops, phones, small speakers. A little bit of glue compression just to make sure that we're sitting in the same kind of dynamic range. And then I'm using the EQ8. Haven't used this trick in a while, but you can watch a short if you don't know how to do it. But I'm using the envelope follower, which is actually on the kick drum. It's one of the only things that's on the kick drum aside from the EQ8 there. And that's sending a signal to the EQ that is on the sub-sine every time the kick drum plays. It's super helpful in making sure that the kick frequency doesn't merge and muddy with the bass frequency. It's a little bit more subtle than using a sidechain compressor. When the loop goes around again, I just wanted some background melodies. I've got two sidechain compressors sat here. One is the kick and one is the piano melody itself. I didn't want there to be any overlaps and I wanted it to be quite a subtle pattern. We've just got a Serum preset here with the Lo-Fi piano sound, which is something you can download from Splice. And I kind of just played this in real time with my other melodies. Like I said, we're in the key of D flat major. So it's just kind of feeling out what worked with the piano melody and chords and everything else that was going on, keeping it quite staccato and quite sporadic as well in these almost triplet fill patterns. And then underneath, I've just got another Serum preset that I downloaded from Splice called the Kalimba Lofi. This one's got a little bit of a harsher attack. You could use the plastic Kalimba in Ableton to get this sound just mixed with a little bit of reverb too. You might not have even noticed it the first time. That sits under all my other melodies. Got a little bit of delay. The first Serum instrument is set to 2 beat divisions, while the second instrument is set to 4 beat divisions. As you can see there, it's set to ping pong, so it kind of keeps that panning going, keeps the interest and the ear candy in the track. Apart from that, I've just got a rain sample underneath the track. Super quiet. Make sure that when you're using noise, vinyl, crackle, rain, you roll off those lows. They will mix with your other melodic instruments and you don't want any clashes, especially when you start to work on the mastering of your track. If you do want to learn about the mastering of your track, especially for Spotify and playlists and things, then there's a link to that video somewhere around the screen. And if you are enjoying this, then do give us a little like or a subscribe. Greatly helps out the channel. Finally, at the very beginning there, we just had this little vocal pad coming from Serum. I've got a little bit of shaper box on it, just with some panning, only because I never really used the pan shaper in shaper box. So I thought I'd give it a go. The volume shaper for a little bit of sidechain, but it's set to 78%. So it's really not doing too much movement. And then the filter, making sure it eases in and out. This has got some delay on it just inside Serum, and then the EQ8 as well. That's just giving it this kind of pulsating feeling. It's very subtle in the introduction to this track. A nice easy one for us today, guys. With that kind of old school jazzy feel of lo-fi hip hop. What do you think? Should I finish this one up and maybe release it? Have your say in the comments. And if you want to download this project or the STEM session, then just head over to the Patreon. We've got loads of goodies from other projects, racks, templates. You can even book one-to-one sessions or join us in the secret channels on the Discord. There's loads of helpful members. For now, guys, I thank you as always for swinging by, and I'll see you next time.